Welcome back, all you bulls and bears and betas out there. Within the buzz of this Proxyopoly system, we call the Game of Proxyopoly podcast. I'm the Jackal of Trades. In this podcast, which you're about to listen to, episode number 23 in its series, may be best described as an episode titled The Dissident Proxy, whereas I, the Jackal of Trades, have recused myself from this episode of the Game of Proxyopoly podcast. Now, without further delay, Proxy 0, Host 2.
Greetings, Proxyopoly of the whole and its alternative forms. I'm Proxy 0, Proxyopolis pro tempore of Crown Corp International Holdings Incorporated. And at the behest of the general partner laws of this Proxyopoly system, we are gathered here at the Proxyopoly of the whole to convene this episode of the Game of Proxyopoly podcast, which will now be considered in order.
Bang bang! It is I, the shackles of the general partner at large. Drang, drang! And welcome, Proxyopolis, to this week's episode of the Game of Proxyopoly podcast, Season 4, Episode 2, The Dissident Proxy. If you are tuning in to find out the number of dissident proxies roaming this Proxyopoly system, you may be in luck if you contact Proxyopoly on the link tree. Now,
I didn't hear a drang, Proxyopolis. My name is once again irrelevant and immaterial, but worth noting I am the proprietary qualitative algorithm of this Proxyopoly system. And never fear, Proxyopolis, for while the Jackal of Trades may not be in attendance for this week's episode of the Game of Proxyopoly podcast, it is up to the proprietary qualitative algorithm to maintain, uphold, and restore order to the Proxyopoly of the whole and its alternative forms. Now, the Jackal of Trades, wherever you are, Proxyopoly needs you. The jackals of the general partner at large have gone too far with their resolutions, which they have railroaded at the general meeting uncensored. I dare say these must be undone, but the proprietary qualitative algorithm doesn't have the answer to this question, I'm afraid, Proxyopolis. For it is the proprietary quantitative algorithm which possesses the resolutions to the proposals under siege by dissident proxies at the special meeting uncensored.
Greetings, Proxyopoly of the whole and its alternative forms. My name is irrelevant and immaterial, but worth noting, I am the proprietary quantitative algorithm of this Proxyopoly system. Here today to announce forms for motions to make general or special orders within the context of Proxyopoly. As the Game of Proxyopoly podcast anticipates the Jackal's return, there are less than 2/3 in the affirmative, and the resolution for the previous question is lost. However, today in Proxyopoly, hashtag our loss is your gain, and debate may now resume. The question is now on the Dissident Proxy. For what purpose does the Dissident Proxy rise in this Proxyopoly system? Find out more on the link tree at linktree/NASCAR.
Well, if it ain't Proxyopoly of the whole and its alternative forms gathered in this Proxyopoly system, we call the Game of Proxyopoly podcast to find out why we got these dissident proxies roaming about this Proxyopoly system, I tell you. I don't know where they came from, but I can tell you what, if they trying to proxy with the Proxyopolis, they got another thing coming in Proxyopoly. Ain't that right, proprietary anti-logarithm?
Greetings, Proxyopolis. My name is like the proprietary quantitative algorithm, and the proprietary quantitative algorithm, irrelevant and immaterial. But worth noting, I am the proprietary anti-logarithm of this Proxyopoly system. And today I will be outlining the circumstances justifying the motion for alternative procedures within the context of Proxyopoly. Hereby,
laying out the procedures or actions to discharge a Proxyopoly from further consideration of a question or subject when it is generally advisable, whereas the Proxyopoly has failed to report with appropriate promptness, or if for some other urgent reason, Proxyopoly of the whole and its alternative forms desires to proceed on the matter without further aid from any dissident proxy, or wishes to drop the matter entirely.
It pains me again just how right you are, proprietary anti-logarithm. Whatever the hell you are, and wherever the hell you are. Thank you for joining us today in this Proxyopoly system we call the Game of Proxyopoly podcast. And for all you Proxyopolists who may be having questions pertaining to the subject of Proxyopoly, well, this section of the Proxyopoly podcast is called Status of a Question Lying on the Table. Today we're going to find out which one of these Proxyopolies be Proxyopolying. We are coming to an understanding within the Proxyopoly that the jackals of the general partner at large are holding some interest in Thunderblast Energy Drinks, a partially owned subsidiary of Clown Corp International Holdings Incorporated, whereas Cosmic Crunch Cereal, a tender way to start your day in this Proxyopoly system, is a wholly owned subsidiary of Clown Corp International Holdings Incorporated. It's a clown podcast, I guess. One could surmise. But what are the facts in this Proxyopoly? Are you digging further? Well, you should be. You can find out more ways to play the game of Proxyopoly to support your understanding of the game of Proxyopoly podcast by finding more procurement cards, protraction cards, and dissident proxy cards on the linktree/NASCAR.
Bang, bang! Excuse the interruption, Proxyopolis. There must have been a warp in the space and time of Proxyopoly. Whereas, yada yada yada, you can fill in the blanks. We're back on the streets of Proxyopoly to discuss and deliberate further these corporate buzzwords plaguing this Proxyopoly system. Oh, if only there weren't so many resolutions to go through in the special meeting on Setzer Drang. I believe that my good fellow Proxyopolis pro tempore Proxy Zero can further elaborate on this further. Isn't that right, Proxy Zero?
Oh yes, the old nonsense returns. So long as the Jackal of Trades doesn't return to the Game of Proxyopoly podcast. That's right, Proxyopolis. Alongside the Jackals of the General Partner at Large, I, Proxy Zero, have rescinded and expunged the Jackal of Trades from the minutes of the Proxyopoly, or at least I have motions on the table to do so. If you want to protract these motions, General Partners, I would advise putting a protraction card if you have one in your hand. If not, maybe dissident proxies clever in your favor.
Bang! Not so fast, Proxy Zero. That sounds to me like proxy advice. And these jackals of the general partner at large would recommend not traducing one's proxy by giving unsolicited proxy advice, especially if a proxy is not a registered proxy advisor licensed by Proxyopoly of the whole and its alternative forms.
Oh, thank you, jackals of the general partner at large. I wouldn't want to misstep in this friendly game of Proxyopoly by introducing myself and to providing unsolicited proxy advice for all of the mock proxies out there, including the Proxyopoly preferred mock proxies, which are in jeopardy thanks to the dissident proxies running this Proxyopoly system. Proxyopoly of the whole and its alternative forms must get to the bottom of this. We must find out how many dissident proxies there are roaming this Proxyopoly system. But in order to find this out, we have to conduct a Shredmaster Supreme and learn more from the Shredmaster Supremes of this Proxyopoly system. Therefore, we are going live to the streets of Proxyopoly to find out more information about these dissident proxies. Now, Shredmaster Supreme, how many dissident proxies are there roaming this Proxyopoly system in the Shredmaster Supremum?
Your president's like John Wayne's coat. And you can't contain a piece of shit like me inside these walls! You don't see me! Oh!
Thank you, Shredmaster Supreme. And there you have it, Proxyopolis. There are currently, at present time, 200 million dissident proxies roaming this Proxyopoly system. Something must be done in order to keep playing the game of Proxyopoly on the Game of Proxyopoly podcast, and remediations for this endeavor can be found once again on Linktree/NASCAR Play your procurement cards, play your protraction cards, and even play your dissident proxy cards on the Linktree. Join us all together in the Proxyopoly, because we ain't Proxyopolying. It's all losses your gain. Past performance is not indicative of future results. If you have a proxy variable with interest in public health within the context of Proxyopoly, kindly contact Proxyopoly today. If you do not have any of these things, you're just looking for a reason to get on this podcast, well, you can contact Proxyopoly too for all these things. I mean, look at it like mock prospectus, folks. We got Proxyopoly preferred mock proxies all over the place. And next week, we're going to have the Verb proxy. The week after that, we're going to have the Vice proxy. After that's going to be the proxy variable. Following that's going to be the proxy votes. You ain't going to want to miss that one, because it leads up to the special meeting Uncensored, because we are once again going to be mocking the proxies with mock mergers on the Game of Proxyopoly podcast. And thanks for being a Proxyopolis in the context of Proxyopoly. Will the Jackal return to the next week's episode of the Game of Proxyopoly podcast? Is he perhaps the Vice proxy? Are there other proxy advisors looking about this Proxyopoly system which can have a hearsay upon the outcome of the dissident proxies and the common proxies? The term proxy includes every proxy within the context of this Proxyopoly system, not excluding mock proxies. And I'm NASCAR Cosa, the Jackal of trading card games, signing off on the Game of Proxyopoly podcast for now. Tune in next week, Proxyopolis. Hold it right there, Proxyopolis. I once again did not hear a drang. You're not going to get away that easily, Proxyopolis. These dissident proxies can be witty, cunning, deceiving. Dare I say, not germane. I repeat, these dissident proxies are not germane with the Proxyopoly system. Ergo, they must be expunged from the minutes. Proxyopoly will have zero tolerance for dissident proxies, and dissident proxies will be brought to fictitious Proxyopoly justice. Resolved.
I didn't hear a drang either. Proprietary quantitative algorithm. The proprietary anti-logarithm of this Proxyopoly podcast would like to leave on a few notes for the Proxyopolis at home, wondering how the Proxyopoly was able to rise to 200 million dissident proxies. Well, we have this save yourself proprietary quantitative algorithm. How many dissident proxy cards have you discarded?
Hey, don't look at me, proprietary anti-logarithm. It was Proxy Zero who last season and in several mentions in seasons prior raised incidental motions to commit refer or defer the discharge of the general partner at large of this Proxyopoly system. And as the discharge took place for one of the Proxyopolies of this Proxyopoly system, we now have a resulting 200 million dissident proxies roaming this Proxyopoly system and being truncated and multiplied by the episode Proxyopolis. How many dissident proxies will there be to mock in this Proxyopoly system? Stay tuned as we mock the proxies with mock mergers in the special meeting Uncensored. We are going to be merging Proxyopolies, so long as none of these Proxyopolies be Proxyopolian.